This trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Good morning, everybody. So, I know you want to talk about the cryptocurrencies, but we're going to wait on that and let people get into the channel first, because obviously we're going to have a lot to talk about since my calls were like scarily accurate here. So let's, first thing I'm going to do is pull the links up here. Pretty crazy that, here. Ooh. Man, yesterday was just like the day of a lifetime. Let me tell you what, I can't even, it's hard for me to even accept that this is all happening. Like, it's a little crazy. I mean, we had a good day in Treasuries yesterday, and Treasuries are going down, and we're past 3% now. We're definitely, excuse me, we're definitely above 3%, and that's crazy. But then we made this call on cryptocurrencies, and it just happened like to the T. Okay, so there's the links. I'm gonna wait until we got a couple of people in here first. That's not the link I want. This one. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about Treasuries first. Okay. Yesterday, pretty interesting action. We came down here to this 040, and I didn't know it at the time, but that is 3% on the 10-year yield. When that happened, equities just threw a complete tizzy fit. And look at how deep down it went. I mean, they really were unhappy. Now in my recover, I can kind of see equities maybe making a pullback to this pivot here. Possibility. I don't really know what it's going to do. I mean, when you really come back and look at this chart, I mean, we now have to go back more than a year to get levels. And this could just continue. This could come back here. I really don't know. When you look at how long this bear run ran, it's hard for me to trade here at this point, because we're on such a strong weekly trend. But yes, it's pretty fun trading in Treasuries right now. I think, I know there's a lot of bond managers out there that would disagree, but I'm having fun. Now here, we're kind of sitting at the lows, and they're selling it at 119. We should stay vigilant for some kind of break or fall apart here, because they could totally decide to do it. I mean, it's interesting that the overnight session decided to push it so low. If we came back up to this 040, I would expect them to bounce right off of it now. I think that we're above 3% just for, it's gonna stay that way for a while. Do we have anything else on general? Good morning. Okay, so we got 7 people, 8 people. All right, we got our usual audience. So let's go into the, let's also generate the charts here. I don't think it's going to give us a new number, but oh, it did give us a new number. Bada boom. Holy crap. It is exactly 150. Okay. 25. Here's Bitcoin. Good morning and thank you. Alts are bleeding bad and I think it's just starting. Yep. It's going to be sad. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to give an overview of how I do this. And I'm going to record this separately so that we can upload it to YouTube. Just to make sure that we have a really good video that explains it. And if I miss anything or you have any questions, put it in the chat and I will answer them at the end, okay? All right. So I've developed this indicator and we've been calling it the Sethulator, although I'm starting to call it the golden goose to my wife because really it's just like it prints money. It's kind of hard for me to sit and like explain how significant I think that this indicator is, because when I say it, it's not believable. It's like those sorts of things don't exist in trading. Nothing is that predictive. But man, it just works, and it's scary how well it works. So what is it? Here's the chart. I post this chart every day on patreon.com/speculatorseth. So if you want daily updates or you find this information useful, please subscribe to that. We do put that money back into the markets. I'm kind of, I'm not rich. And even though I've made a lot of money off of this, $500, I guess it's not a lot of money, but I've made some good money off of Bitcoin, but we really want to save up so that we can hit this hard when it hits back to the other side. And for those of you that are watching this far in the future, to get a little bit of context here, this indicator, when it hits 50, you buy it. When it hits 150, you sell it. Sometimes when it hits 100, that's also a sell. Basically, between 100 and 150, I consider Bitcoin to be in a bubble. So I will just show you in this most recent run what happened. If you look here, on April 24th, my indicator started reading 150. My calculations said that it would reach 150 at 9,500. When it came out at 9,500 yesterday, or close to it, I sold everything. I actually sold somewhere in here. I got the last of my Bitcoin cash out at 1475 or so. I was trying to get 89, but I didn't quite get it, and my tape started showing the big selling, so that's when I panicked. You can see here in the overnight, then we got a crescendo buying event. Remember, I made the call over here. We got a crescendo buying event, and now we're much lower. And I expect that this will continue much lower to around 4,000 in Bitcoin. So how do I do it? How does it work? Well, what we're looking at is we're looking at the transaction value, not like the number of transactions or the average or anything like that. I'm looking at if you take every transaction that happens in Bitcoin and you say, how much was that transaction worth with current market prices? And you add all of that up through the day and you get the daily transaction value. That's what we're looking at. The theory is that Bitcoin is worth money because you can transfer it to other people, because you can use it, okay? And it is that use as a transaction network that gives Bitcoin value. So we're looking at how much are people actually using the network, how much money are they pushing through the network. And then I have a bunch of ways of filtering it. That's kind of the secret sauce that I'm not going to share with you. I'm sure that if you tried really hard, you could maybe reverse engineer this, but you don't need to, because I post the charts every day. You can subscribe to it for $5 to get immediate updates. And if you really don't want to subscribe and you don't want to share things, then that's okay. That's totally okay. I do make the charts available 3 days after, right? Anyways, so we look at the transaction value and we adjust that with a bunch of things and filters and compare that to the price. And that's basically this blue line that you can see here. One way of thinking about it is if you look at monetism, which is this equation that says like the monetary supply times the velocity should be equal to the price of goods times the I forget. Anyways, we're using a similar kind of equation, and one way of looking at this is we're looking at the velocity, which is how much money is being moved around, like if a coin is being reused a lot, right? So if we start moving up and people really start buying it, then the people have to start trading those same Bitcoins more quickly. And basically when the velocity gets too high or too low, we turn around. Another way of looking at it is that we're seeing the price get out of line with use of the network. And if future use of the network is going to go down, then price is going to go down. And if future network use is going to go up, then price is going to go up. And we're able to read those pivot by pivot. So here we are. We had 150. We just had a crescendo buying event. My calculations say that by the time we get back to the 50, and if we look at the past, we do get back to the 50. Almost every time that we get to that 150, it goes right back to the other side, right? That will be around 4,000. So I don't know, are there any questions in here? Don't tell anyone else. Yeah, right. So here's the one thing I'm going to tell you guys. If you find this information useful, please subscribe to the Patreon. Because I'm not going to be shouting from the rooftops when it's the buy event, right? I'm just going to post it in the, just going to post a chart in the Patreon and say I'm buying, and you'll find out about it 3 days later and it'll be too late. So that's my recommendation. Yep. How do I know it will be 4,000? So basically what I do is I look at the current transaction value, and I say, and you know what the velocity is right now, and I just do the reverse math. I say, okay, it's at 150 right now. What if it was 50? What would the price be? And that puts us around 4,000. Now that's a rough estimate, and the closer that we get to it, the more accurate that estimate is going to be. I think after this, I need to make a change to the chart so that it will show the upper and lower bands so that we can place our targets a little bit better. But yes, that's how I do it. I just do the math in reverse by hand. Yep. What the indicator doesn't necessarily, I mean, this doesn't give me exact levels, but what I do is I basically say, you know, based on current transaction volume, what price would we need to be at to hit 150? Yeah. Very good. Any other questions? All right, well, I think that's good. I hope, I know I've talked about this on the channel before, but I hope that this is like the most thorough explanation so that we can just post this on the YouTube channel and that will answer all questions in the future. So thank you. I'm gonna stop this recording right here. Okay. Now I'll post that after we are done. Oh, no. I don't want to shut down. I just want to stop. There we go. Okay. Well, geez. I mean, maybe this is a little premature. I wouldn't be surprised to see it pop up a little bit again, but this is the point where everybody's like, oh no, it's just buy the dips, guys. Don't buy the dip. This is... I'm pretty confident. It's pretty crazy to have a trade and be willing to. I mean, I would literally. Here's the thing: Bitcoin can do anything, of course. Okay, and it could crash down to zero, or the government could come in and say you're not allowed to own it. Any day now, that could totally happen. So I always have to preference this with anything can happen in Bitcoins. Okay, but at this point, this indicator has been so prescient. I really didn't believe it myself at the beginning. I would risk any amount of money that I could have to lose. I'm literally, now that I know that we've had a top and we're going to go back down to the 50 again, and I don't know if it's going to, the next bear, if there's another bull trap, or if that's the bottom. If there is another bull trap, I'm not sure if it's going to get very much lift that time, but we're still going to trade it, and I am going to swing as hard as I can. I'm saving, and I hope to have $1,000 at that point to be able to put into it. Yeah, that was Bitcoin. In Treasuries is much harder to predict, isn't it? Yeah. Here's the thing, is that in Treasuries, we understand pretty well what moves Treasuries. And you got to realize that when we're talking about a move of even half a point, okay, you're talking about something that's like you're talking about something that's like 1% change in the price of the asset. Does that make sense? And so Treasuries are just so stable that in order to make any money off of them, you have to trade ridiculous size. And that's why these lots that we're trading are literally represent $1 million. And then if it ticks up one, we make $15, right? And meanwhile, you have Bitcoin can go on these huge swings of like, 10%, 20% in a day, at some point. I would hope, at least, if Bitcoin really becomes a thing and really continues to grow, then I would hope that at some point we get there to where we understand the movement of Bitcoin so much that opportunity to trade it like that just isn't there anymore. And it's more stable, like currency, like Treasuries. Although it will be like almost opposite to 10% in a day is nothing. It's a good point. I mean, some alts can just go like crazy, times 10 in a day, and it's so crazy. Really hope I did that with the Sia coin and I got it, but I was only mining it, and I didn't mine it for nearly as long as I should have. So that's why this time I kind of, with the garlic coin, I kind of did a little bit more behind the a bit more work about what price it could actually get to and how much of it I would really need to like make a ton of money on it, so that I don't run into the situation with Sia coin where I really could have just mined a lot more and I didn't. Now I know in garlic coin that like I should mine at least 10k of it, mine and buy at least 10k of it, and when I have 10k of it, then if it moons, then we're set. DCR went 130% last night. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, well we do have some, it's crude oil inventories, that's right. My sense is that we've tested and held the 3% level. That was support for the session. We've subsequently traded below that level. Markets certainly like to supply and demand at key watch levels. I expect we trade back to the 3% this session or soon, just my opinion. Okay, so this is like a locus, a strong point in the profile. I do think that we could test the 04 again. Oh no, they already tested the 04 in the overnight. Interesting that it's fighting at 02. Well, I've been doing a lot of yapping here. It was a pump and dump. Really? Yeah, you know, I have to. So let me eat. We'll talk about when I come back. We'll talk about my tape, my advanced crypto tape.
Jack said just nobody willing to hit into 005/24 yet. Jack said it can get a bit trappy around the lows in this sort of scenario, looks like we might trade lower, actually reverses. Jack said not certain about that. Dave said what's HNS? Dave said aha, thanks.
Well, it's not looking too great at the moment, but that uptick right there was completely on pulling. Sorry for all of my swallowing noises. Okay, so what were we going to talk about? Oh yeah, my tape.
IQ said amigos heading higher.
Yeah, ZF took 2 steps higher there. They hit an iceberg at 077 and it went a little higher. So I'm going to give this a chance to tick down and see what it does, but it's looking like the reason for the original trade at the very least is just not what just was not what we thought it was. Let me pull this up. Pull this out. So here's my crypto tape. I actually have a newer version of it, but I was watching it yesterday in Bitcoin Cash, and I was looking to see if it was going to get to 1489. I didn't click fast enough. Well, that makes me unhappy. Okay, 4. It's okay. And let's see if it gives us some kind of better setup. I don't. In retrospect, that spot was not as good as I thought. Wasn't as good as it looked.
Jack said they may gun for 0.40.
Yeah. To me, this trade doesn't make sense. Anyways, here's my tape. I have a newer version that actually shows you like how many orders it hit when it went through and stuff like that. But I was watching it, and with my tape yesterday in Bitcoin Cash, you could see that they were coming in and hitting it with 100 lots. No joke. 100. So you can see here, like, well, 1 is pretty big in Bitcoin.
Jack said, I think if we get there, they'll trade through pretty easy.
And Bitcoin Cash. And to see 100 is like, what? So you could see that somebody was coming in and was actively selling it. Like, people was pulling shenanigans yesterday. My rebuy is not necessary. I mean, we'll readjust as it gets down there, but that's just what at current market volume.
IQ said big overnight gap ZB needs to be filled or close to it.
It's a good point. In order for us to get back to 4K, yeah, maybe it was Roger Ver. Roger Ver has said a couple of things that seem to match up with my own method of valuation, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is familiar with my indicator or is using something similar to time his trades. Conspiracy theory. Okay, so see here in the 5-year, we moved up 2 ticks on 18, and now we're hitting 25.69. So can't take a long here. Anyways, yeah, so as I had explained earlier, if I just look at the current transaction volume, and then I say what price value would it take to get 50 on my chart, it's around 4K. Now the thing is that
IQ said i.imager.com.
things can change as we get down there. Like maybe use changes. You know, as we go down, maybe people start using it more as we go down. Then that could limit the downside. You know, that sort of a thing. So that's why it's kind of like a moving target. I need to draw it with the bands so that you guys can see what the upper and lower are. Do you take crypto for the Patreon? Well, so my understanding is that Patreon does not, but somebody showed me this other website called yours.org that allows you to donate with Bitcoins. So I haven't done it quite yet, but I'm looking at setting that up as well. I kind of have to look at, what their features are. Do they allow me to post images and all that kind of jazz? And posting it to multiple different things is a little bit extra work, but I'm definitely looking into it, and I guess I forgot to look at it yesterday. I was just too excited selling and everything, but now that everything's calmed down, yeah, I understand. Makes it easier. I was thinking about making an Ethereum contract that, like, when you donate to that address, the Ethereum contract sends you the chart. You know what I mean?
Tucker said bidding 0.25.
So where was the iceberg? I missed it. I forgot where it was. Was it at 8 house or was it at 82? Okay, well, that's a strong uptick right there.
Jack said 0.40, they already defended it yesterday and overnight. If you're leaning on that price, do you defend it again or do you cover on the fear you'll get squeezed? Guess we'll see. My bet is.
My bet is the latter. It's only a daily chart, yeah. The data source that we get it updated from is only updates on a day, and the indicator is only useful on a daily time frame, anyways. So I do want to, I thought, maybe if I could get filled at 03 now, it would be good, but they're already ticking up. So, like, if I take a trade, I'm gonna have to punch in. Let's see at which price they decide to iceberg at, though.
IQ said anyone else long ZB?
I think ZB would be the one to be long for sure. Look at that.
Tucker said no fill. CXCL long.
Cancelled it. Okay, so they are fighting at 04, but it wasn't like an iceberg. Wow, really? Wow. Somebody just sent me a message saying that they listened to the call that I made and they saved over a whole Bitcoin worth of money. That's insane. It's really something else. Like, okay.
IQ said, so what's a soft iceberg?
What's a soft iceberg?
IQ said, grimacing face. IQ said, should we ask the wife LOL? ETH said LOL.
Oh, that's right. Oh, okay. Okay, wow. Well, that was two very quick down ticks. I'm still a little wary of trading it here. You mean they let buyers lift the offer and sell back in and do that over a few times, eventually executing the order instead of just sitting firm at the price with a hidden for a whole lot? So this is hard to explain.
ETH said long 03.
So with an iceberg, remember that iceberg, or the more technical term is a refreshing order, is a feature of the exchange. So let's say that I have 10,000 contracts to sell at 040. The feature of the iceberg is you say only show 400. Okay? And what will happen is if somebody buys 200 of it, then it will immediately put 400 up again. And it will do so like on the exchange transparently, so it won't even send the level 2 update, okay? What happens if you say only show 400 and somebody puts a 500 lot through? Okay, well, what will happen is they will buy the 400 and then 100 of it will bid, and then your iceberg will immediately sell that 100 again and put the 400 back up.
IQ said Keith ZN or ZB.
Does that make sense? So what you can see sometimes when somebody's really has a really strong lure and it's like they're only showing 500 at a time, you might see, you know, if we were trading down, for instance, you might see prints right here. And that is actually part of the iceberg. That makes sense? Right? So there's that. But then something else that I will often see is what I call fighting, where like it'll tick down and they'll actually put a bid there and you'll see the level 2 come through. Because when this 643 comes through, you won't even see, you'll never see it go offer. You'll just see it trade there. Okay, but like that one right there, they ticked down and then it immediately ticked back up. Okay, and now they've hit 500 at 03 halves. So my theory is, and I'm not 100% sure, but my theory is that that means that there are multiple traders with icebergs at that level, accumulating at that level. So that means it's still good for like support, and that means that I mean, obviously the most important thing is that there is a lot of buyer side supply there at 03 halves for sure. Okay, but it also means that there is not as much opportunity to stop somebody out. You know, like if this was all one person and we were sure that it was all one person and it was a 10K, and then we ticked down to like 0.25, then you could see a move where this guy pukes all 5K orders like all at once, you know. And that's where you get those level break trades. So, you know, this is like the subtleties of icebergs. A lot of volume at the highs, but it's not back into 0.25. That makes me think it's a steamroller on up. I too am starting to think that it is buy. Okay, so that time the sellers won, and they actually now have taken it down 2 ticks. Maybe we're wrong. E-mini did take a move. Tone Vase is calling for a 4.8K buyback. I'll have to look up that person because I haven't heard of them before. But yeah, I should pull up the chart here again for you, because it's a really, I mean, trying to guess the next pivot is super interesting to talk about, right? So like, let's look at the how this has gone in the past, okay? Move up. Okay, so here was the top for Mt. Gox, okay? So that corresponds to this mess right here, okay? So now we had this, it's actually this thing right here, and it came up to 100. I think this one is like really speculative, okay? But we had this thing where we came up to it at 100, and the market sold off pretty strong. And Tone Vase is like the BTC chart YouTuber. Okay, yeah, I don't really look them up, so just because I have my own way of doing things. Anyways, we had this thing where, remember, it went to like 100, and it was like, oh, I should have sold, and then it did this thing because I wanted it to get to 150 and it didn't do it. Well, so I'm wondering if that corresponds to this thing right here. So if this thing has already happened, then that means that this move corresponds to this move, right? So then when you look at how strong this move was in Bitcoin, I mean, that one was devastating, so bad, right? Right now it says 4K, but you know, I have to wonder, you know, if we get a strong move down that I'm expecting to 4K, at that point, how much is that going to affect sentiment, you know? Like, is use going to decline even further? And if so, does that make the lower end even lower? Because once you get to 4, well, and then the other scenario is we do hit the 4, and then we get another bull trap or something like that. And then you have the ability to go even lower. At that point, in those two scenarios, you know, we get down to 4K, all of a sudden we could very easily start to be looking at 2 and 1K. And if it went to 1K, that's like 90% decline, right? And I guess the other thing that at that point that we have to start to consider, okay, we are starting to get some more encouraging short volume, but the E-mini is unclear, and if that's what's moving us, I don't know if I want to take a trade. 1K is 100% decline from 2016 levels. I guess, yeah. I was thinking more like if the top was 20K and we get to 1K, then it's 90% from its all-time high. But you're right, because it was at 1K that erases that whole years of gain. But yeah, the other thing, though, that you have to look at is, if I can pull this over here, I still don't want to take a trade here. In fact, I think that one loser might have really discouraged me. So if we look at Bitcoin Cash, for instance, okay, Bitcoin Cash got hit just as hard, and Bitcoin Cash was, you know, really moving. Ethereum hit just as hard. Now let's look at a larger chart of Ethereum. Now we need like a daily chart of Ethereum. Okay. If we could very quickly go back to 400. But, you know, once you get below that, what really is there to stop us? Because that is the whole thing. So now, then you're starting to look at long-term support levels starting to fail as well. I hope that doesn't happen, but it's within the realm of possibility. $2,400 sold into 03. Okay, iceberg there at 02. Look at it like this. Bitcoin at 4K, people will be jumping in on that because of the perceived bargain price levels. Plus, I'm sure that the Mt. Gox idiot will panic sell again. Oh, right. You're talking about the guy that's in charge of the funds from Mt. Gox. Well, I think that you will see a lot of people trying to catch it at 6. Yeah. The previous low. They're going to fight out hard. And when it breaks, yep. When it breaks, there's going to be a lot of panic. And then when you get down to 4, oh, I guess we need to point out another piece of behavior that we've seen, right? They've been going through our targets a little bit. I mean, we actually almost made it to 10K, didn't we? It seems to me that the market tries to extend through them. It tries to get through the 150 level on my chart and then immediately fails. Because that's what it did on the 6, because remember my level was 8. And then there was that one day where it kept going lower to 6. And I said, well, I still think it's a buy and I would just hold it. If it breaks 6K, the previous wall, it's going to be Panic City, yeah. You know, and a big problem that I see in the Bitcoin ecosystem itself is that I mean, and now we have to get into the more unpopular theory here, right? People aren't using Bitcoin. The use cases, the things that you could do with it, people don't want to do because the fees are too high. So like in Bitcoin Cash, somebody's built like a Twitter that works on the blockchain, and somebody's built like a social network that works on the blockchain. And so it's like you pay a Satoshi or whatever it is in Bitcoin Cash, and you attach a message to it, and it's like Twitter. Yeah, it's pretty cool actually. And excuse me, like there's use for it, and in Bitcoin they're not doing that. And so like the only real use for Bitcoin, as far as I can tell, is to go into alts. But it seems like people are hesitant to even do that. And so at that point, if you bought Bitcoin, why take it out of the exchange except for cold storage? So it really limits the transaction value, and it makes my indicator, it makes it really hard on my indicator to turn around, you know? So yeah, those panics that down at the bottom definitely give you a bit of a like a, you know, it could really extend things lower. And at some point, what's going to happen is they're just going to leave it for dead. It's going to go down, and people are going to panic, and then there's not going to really be any reason to be in it. And our indicator will probably give a buy, but that's the one where it'll take a long time to see anything from it. Okay. Well, we've slowly ticked back up. ZF in particular is looking pretty good. Yeah, and there's a 3K to 3.5. That's like the doomsday scenario. Yeah, well, it's tough to say. I guess the one thing that can save us is that there does appear to be a lot of institutional interest. And as long as this move down that we're going to get doesn't destroy the institutional demand, you know, that could definitely save us. I think the problem is that right now it's not like like they're saying Goldman is going to start a crypto trading desk. It doesn't seem to me that Goldman is like super interested in playing around in the crypto space and, you know, making all of these things and doing all this stuff. It seems to me like they have clients that just really want to sell Bitcoin, and so they've got to do whatever they've got to do to make their clients happy. You know what I mean? So they hired this crypto trader, quote unquote. Yeah, I like the way you put that, Dave. You know, what are they actually going to do? Well, it's probably just going to be like some rich guy says, "Oh, I want to buy $1 million worth of it," and they'll go and they'll do it for him. Okay, well, 5K iceberg at 03 half. How big of an iceberg do we need to see? So that's exactly what I'm talking about there. He only had 300 bid on there, and so they tried to push through the iceberg several times and it held. So on that 1350, you're gonna have to add that to the 57 and say that at the moment it's a 7K iceberg, most likely a 10K iceberg at 03.5. We should keep an eye out here to see if we get...
Jack said this is where the buyers can push through 0.35 and get the domino effect rolling, hopefully.
Yeah. Another thing we have to remember is that since February, I'd say the icebergs have been holding for the most part. We've only gotten those spillover effects like once or twice. Let's see if anybody in the subreddit that was saying much about the move down.
Tucker said any breakout players up here?
Apparently not.
Tucker said thinking about trying to lift 3 halves with the 6K other orders. Dave said we do seem to be in an overall downtrend.
Yeah. Oh, snap. Is it going down? Notice here in the Bitcoin futures that my VWAP bands are now starting to become useless. Okay, well they took the other 3 halves finally and ticked up, but they were not able to put the strongest bid there. Overall,
Jack said see that in the 5-year at 0.87, huge iceberg.
yeah, that is pretty massive. I was just about to point that out when you said that. Have we seen a 10K? Is this after she goes? Well, look, there is some volume on the other side of it too. It's interesting because there was a lot of market selling there. Really through this whole thing. Yeah. The finite idea saying, pointing out that we're pretty close to 9,000 and saying perhaps could happen sooner in a couple of days. I'm also on the side of soon. I've noticed when these things, I mean, just go back and look at the past times that this has happened, you know? Right now is the buy the dip. People are buying this.
Jack said that pull at 0.40, cheeky.
Yeah, right. People are buying this and providing the sellers fuel to push it lower. So I think that you will probably get it within the next day, certainly before the end of the week. Orders are taking control now. Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting that people were pointing out was that the longs shorts, the margin shorts weren't actually increasing. So it was like people just got out of the market completely instead of nothing but a short squeeze hunt. Yeah, that's probably true to some extent. Well, equities have opened, but they're not doing anything super crazy. Bring it up here. So you see how the E-mini went up, and these all ticked down. Crap. Okay, good. Fighting at my price. This one's a little sketchy too because I took it because I saw the momentum and I didn't get filled, and now it seems like the momentum's already flipping. And now it's rotating around, and I kept it on because I had a good Q position, but now it's already ticked through me. I'm kind of doing this stuff at 030, so I think I'm gonna get another downtick, and I can see how I feel then. Oh, come on. Well, now they're back to the 087. Fetch. Come on. Let me out, please. This is not a good place to have a stop, guys. Shit. Okay, that one was a little more encouraging. I'm almost filled. Come on.
Dave said -6 today, Dio.
I can't believe that I'm 100 in line and not getting filled. This is awful.
Dave said totally.
Look at that. Do you see that in the E-mini? I think you could potentially take a short right there. That it's like off of the low and it's having a hard time even ticking up off of the low. Oh man. Well, they're heading down for overnight low levels. And my buy order is just behind. Ugh.
Tucker said Seth that volume stop might get swept again.
I know. I still have this right here in ZF. Well, now equities are just still going. Okay.
Jack said buyers now backstopping ZN, third time the charm on the 040 play. Jack said yup.
Why did it take a short there? All of the volume here throughout this in ZN has been short.
Trade the traders said.
Yeah. And Bitcoin's not gonna like what the equities markets are doing either. Did it ever even go? I did have one favorable tick on it. $7K at 055. 06. I really just want to click long. I just want to be like, why did I ever take, why was I selling here? But I can't click into these.
IQ said thanks Jack for 29 heads up ZB.
Well, I definitely think this could go further. Okay, so at this price level, there was a lot. Wow.
IQ said I.imager.com.
Okay, well, E-mini did pivot. Like, the funny thing is that if I had just waited like another minute, and I would have seen the E-mini getting killed, and then I would have taken the trade the other way and done really well on it. But instead, I was flat-footed and trying to get out and chasing it and just generally doing a terrible job of exiting the losing trade.
Trade the traders said. They're saying that the story on IQ said ZB 5 minutes.
On CNBC is Dow drops 200 points, add to Tuesday's loss as rates keep climbing. So they're saying that this, you know, move up in the overnight was you know, Dow gives back gains. Dow gives back gains to trade sharply lower like what gains. So Trade the Traders just got out of an A-mini trade again. Okay, down tick and not strong offer. But they did all do it. Okay. Well, I'm still allowed to take another one, but it has to be a really good one. Notice right here at the 20, the thousands. I think I want to hit into this. Wow, it's just they're just pulling too much. So they busted through the 20 and now they're back below it. And kind of struggling. Whoa. What the hell? Okay, that's good. So I can't tell yet. The E-mini is looking weak again.
Tucker said L045. Tucker said SRE 04.
Oh, Tucker got into the same
Tucker
spot.
said ZN.
I wonder if he kind of saw the same. It wasn't like necessarily a strong level 2 signal, but it was very much like you'd be hard pressed to get filled at 04. And the E-mini does look like it's turning around. Oh man. There was 5K traded on both sides of this 04. And there's been some volume also around here. If the E-mini tanks. Okay. You notice that it's even just a tiny little pivot one way is making us tick up or down. Well, this is the interest level for sure. You see that? This ticks up, this ticks down. Inverse correlation for sure. Come on. Let's see it break down. Okay, now E-mini is looking at the low. Nope. Coming back a little, is it really gonna fall? That sure looks like it's going to, guys. I don't know. It sure doesn't. It's sure not acting like it at the moment, but that sure looks like that's gonna make a new low in the E-mini. Treasuries seem to agree with me at the moment too. They want a new low. They're gonna go
Jack
above
said
that
interesting
6.
day. Lots of volume and interest. Game on.
Yeah.
Trade the traders said lots of volume.
Look at how easily it flips the
Jack
level
said
2
I'd say it
flips.
constitutes good vol/action.
I'd have to say the same. Come on. Let's do this. There we go. These 600s and everything. That's bad. It's gonna go lower. Man, that 050 has traded back and forth several times now, hasn't it? Crap, come on, stop doing this. $13.10. Notice that it's the 10-year that seems to be moving. This one's up 2 and this one's only up 1. And this one hasn't moved since I reset it. Mini, stop. Stop doing that. We're down. Regular session VWAP. Well, my edge at 04 is held for a long time, and now it's looking like this trade is not following through. I mean, you could still turn around here and really sell. Yeah, there you go.
IQ said amigos wanna go down or they resting.
E-mini, what you doing? E-mini, stop. I don't know. I guess another tumble here is a little bit might be asking a little bit too much. I mean, the action in the E-mini certainly looks to me like it could go lower, but like, how often are you going to see like a real failure after a big trend day that we just
IQ
had?
said I don't know what ES is doing. Neither do I care. My 2 cents.
Yeah.
Tucker said Seth what's target? IQ said enough just watching the 3 amigos.
What's the target? Mistakes were made. I mean, it might still do it, but at the moment, I don't think I have any edge. I think my edge here is that I know that it's being driven by the E-mini, and I know that that tends to be bad trading action for us. So my edges, you should stay out. But at the moment, I'm a little disappointed because I feel like we're sitting on a real powder keg. I suppose I could have taken +2, but yeah, SVN says this SPU is making a pennant flags bearish pattern, and then that certainly is what it looks like to me as well. But it's just not resolving itself right now. Well, where did our Bitcoins go? Oh, they're still selling. I guess one thing we should keep in mind was that when we had that really strong move up in February, that was on a day when the level 2 pulled. We're definitely not seeing that today. I find it fitting that equities are having such a hard time while Bitcoin is moving down, because people keep telling me that like Bitcoin is a store of value, and if the equity indexes go down, the people will go into Bitcoin, and I keep telling them like that's dumb. And I hope that this action here today proves that one once and for all, that they are not related at all. Yeah, they just took a pretty good dip there. Okay, I think we could try this again. Proves it once, but not for all. The jury is still out on that. I don't know. When we had the top in December, same thing. Federal Reserve gave us, because back then what happened was that was the meeting where they came in and said we're raising interest rates.
Crazy action today.
And here's why, and it looks like it's going to continue. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember saying at the time, well, the Federal Reserve raising interest rates isn't good for Bitcoins, because that means that there's less money out there, so there's going to be less people able to buy Bitcoin. And I don't know how big of a component that actually plays into it, but I do think that it matters a little bit. And so it's happened like 2 times now. Well, long term. Yeah, and the reason why I believe what I do about that particular correlation is because Bitcoin is deflationary. So that means, I mean, people typically think of it as deflationary as like counter to everything, but really it's in line with what other risk assets do. So that means if we're in a strong bull market in equities, you could have a strong bull market in Bitcoin, and if we're in a strong bear market in equities, you're likely to have a strong bear market in Bitcoins. Treasuries is the one that moves counter. This is designed to move counter. I just don't see that counter mechanism in Bitcoin, because let's just say that Bitcoin is like it, and maybe it hasn't replaced fiat currencies, but it's a pretty significant part of how people move money. Okay. If the economy is going down, that means that there's going to be less money for people to transact, and that means that the network's going to get less use, and therefore the coins are worth less. So that is the logic with which I use to say that Bitcoin will never be a hedge against equity risk. Like ever. If you want a cryptocurrency to be a hedge against inflation and against equities risk, like treasuries are, you have to design the currency to be counter to that. You have to make the currency, like, somehow you'd have to make the currency worth more when it's not being used. Man, I don't like that down tick. It's just... a lot of robots trading it back and forth here at Ho40 is how I look at this right now. Somebody propped it up when they touched 03.5, but now it's just robots. And the E-mini is just twiddling around here. Although it does look, like somebody said, it looks like a bear flag. I mean, it's pretty flat through there, guys. That certainly doesn't look like a buying recovery. So I agree that it probably is like a bear pennant type of pattern. Or a bull trap. So what you might call it as well. If it's a bull trap, though, it's a very poor one, right? Because nobody's buying it. So I'm going to call it a pennant. Okay, well that was a pretty good and significant down move there. I've not seen in the E-mini here for a while these sweeps where it moves really fast. You know what I mean? Where it just sweeps down like 4 levels. Okay, good uptick. Firm up to 2, please. Yes, thank you. Oh, okay. The finite idea. I just read your comment again, and I guess I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if the dollar collapses and this whole debt-ridden mess world economy runs into a dead end and falls apart, then I think, yes, you might be right. Bitcoin might be a safe haven at that point. So you see they turned around there because the Bitcoins weren't able to make the low again. I don't think they're done. I think they need to go lower because the cumulative delta continues to be selling. Would be unusual to see that just turn around. Would it be unusual? Maybe I'm not so sure about that last comment that I made. Maybe that's just my wishful thinking. Central banks decide to go into negative territory and stay there. Sure, all asset prices will rise. Bitcoin will do very well due to easy transferability, unlike other assets. Okay, yeah. Well, if banks went negative, like negative rates, you mean? That would be great for Bitcoin because that means larger monetary supply. For sure. It depends on, at that point, how mature Bitcoin is at that point, because the more mature Bitcoin is, the less that I think that monetary expansion affects it. Because the main reason why I say that monetary expansion affects it is because Bitcoin is mostly speculators, and there's less money to speculate with. So the better we understand Bitcoin, the less it moves and the more stable it is, then at that point the monetary policy doesn't affect us as much, and people will care more about whether the economy is growing or not. Yeah, the Bank of Japan has been down there for a long time. Are they? I don't know if they're negative at the moment, are they? It's kind of interesting that people will still buy a bond when it's giving a negative interest rate. Bank of Japan is still negative. Okay. Okay, so see the jumps are up. Negative 0.1. Oh. I am so hiding that stupid duck call now. I don't know where they got that from, but I'm so getting rid of it.
Hamel said calling new lows. Hamel said this market is going down. Hamel said short from 04. Hamel said you're most likely right. Hamel said but. Hamel said I'm leaning more towards downside.
Yeah. Understood.
Hamel said did you see the ridiculous bids flowing in? Hamel said and failing endlessly to push higher. Hamel said and to break out. Hamel said ton of buyers trapped.
Well, I see about 10K.
Hamel said but sellers just can't push down.
No, they can't. All things considered, for me to have lost 8 today, which is pretty bad. I just traded awful because really we've been actually relatively range bound, you know? So for me to have lost 4 on a trade, I picked exactly
Hamel said
the
if
wrong
sellers
spot.
just keep holding price at these levels. Hamel said buyers have to give up.
Well, I am at the back of the
IQ said
line
CR
still.
equals 13 in ZB.
Am I being too stingy again? Trying to get the break even.
Hamel said there we go. Hamel
Yeah,
said slowly but surely.
looks like a bubble down. Phew. Let's look. I actually had +3 on and +2 on one of those at one point. So if I had just been taking the one tickers, I probably could have made a profit today. It did it so many times.
Tucker said, well, +1s with a 4 stop is tough to keep going for the long haul.
Oh no, if I was doing +1s, we'd have to be taking like the -1 too for sure, yeah. 4 stop is supposed to be like something that I think I'm doing really poorly with, and I think is one of my biggest problems right now, is that the -4 is
Tucker
supposed
said
to
maybe
be
-1/+1, but that exposes you to quick little jumps.
yeah. That the -4 is supposed to be like a worst case scenario, you know, like for the jumps. And then what ends up happening instead is I have the wrong spot or whatever. I'm -2. I think that's okay, and then I get the jump and it takes me out to -4. And when we come in here and we look at this one, like there was my first short, obviously a bad trade.
Hamill said on any other day this market would have been gone down already.
And then I don't know if I did this one as well or where it was, but let's see here. I did one at 10. Yep, I did one at 10. And I did one at 25. So I caught that one and then I caught that one. So like I made the worst trades that you could have possibly have made. But then when we were down here, you know, 2.
Tucker said, dude,
maybe 2.
If the -4 is the worst case scenario, you have to be bailing at -2 and -3 consistently.
Yeah, exactly.
-4 is your computer crashed, house exploded, I lost consciousness, stop.
I lost consciousness. Yeah, so that's the problem. So then the question is, why do I continue to take 4? Is a 4 -4 just okay? I think that if I had had a profitable trade already and I had a little bit of profit on that day, then maybe it's okay to risk that, but
Hamill said, who the hell is
not
buying into this market? Hamill said, geez. Hamill said, just give up already. Tucker said, it's because you're hoping for +8 on each trade.
Well, that might be true too. So that is going back to this. If I decide that we're not trending anymore, and I was kind of saying, well, we're not trending, but it looks like it could, you know, the equities could fall at any moment and blah blah blah. But if I say that it's range bound, then I have to be taking these you know +2s essentially. Either my small risk trades where I'm maybe risking 1 to get 1 or risking 2 to get 2, right? Or my regular trade that just taking a quicker profit on it. And I just find it's so difficult for some reason to see that I need to do that I need to cut it short. I always say, okay, well, let's let it tick through one more time. And then it doesn't do it. Or, you know, I let it tick down and ticks back up and, oh, well, let's just let it mess around. And then it seems to me like it just...
Hamill said, time to retest lows. Hamill said, there we go. Hamill said, finally.
Yeah.
Tucker said not at all. You have to trade each trade as best as it needs to be traded. Don't get into every trade thinking I'll only take 2 on this or I'm gonna get 32 here because that bias. Hamill said there we fucking go. Hamill said this is what I was waiting to happen.
I wouldn't get too excited, Camel. It's only like 1 tick. By the way, let's give you a regular so you can post charts. Okay.
Trade the traders said sorry forgot it.
Yeah, so on the profit
Hamill
taking.
said if we don't push below 26 with this volume. Hamill said I'll be surprised.
Oh, in the CB.
Hamill said 988 print at 28. Hamill said.
Let me mute that for a second. Oh look, I got filled. Noticing how hard it is to get filled, right? Yeah, so Tucker. I mean, I think that you can't sit down and say today is a range day or today is a breakout day, because it can change between them at any moment for sure. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, right, this action right now is range bound. This is, I'm going to trade 3K into this, and it may go through and it may not, and it's almost random, right? And as long as I see that, although now we're seeing trending, I mean, now that it's gone down a little bit, is it reasonable to go to look for the low? I think so. Whereas where we were before, I don't think after equities opened that it really was. After about here on the E-mini was when it was like, okay, it is no longer trending and I need to change my targets. And it's like I see it, but it doesn't register. It doesn't, like, I don't say, okay, I need to change and I need to start clicking differently, even though I see it, I'm not sure what the mental block is.
Camel said you're right.
Don't say this action right now suggests XYZ, suggests who is going to puke next. Well, I mean, there's that too, right? Because we're saying that right now we're saying that there's about...
Hamill said I am just surprised with buyers today.
Now it's actually quite a bit different, but we're looking at maybe 10,000 people that could puke if we really push down.
Hamill said I might have to get out soon at 28/29.
Well, ZB, it looks like he wants to go lower. But there is lower highs. I don't know. Here again, we had a good move back to the VWAP and below it. We could get another good move, but it's
Tucker
probably
said no,
more likely to be range.
Who needs to puke right now? Camel is one. Who are the others? Where are shorts and longs going to puke?
Well, I think they're going to puke at 015.
Camel said LOL.
I think they would puke at 115. I don't think that the shorts would puke, though. You'd have to get well above 06 for the shorts to puke.
Camel said I'd never puke when I'm in such a good spot. Camel said still think it's going down.
Where did you get in at? What did you get in at 142 even?
Camel said buyers have to give up soon. Heath said you keep telling yourself that and you might hold on to your trade until it comes back to break even. LOL. Camel said LOL.
So let's talk about something, another thing here, though, that I think is probably more important than where I'm taking my profits. Why is it that I am taking the exact wrong trade in the worst spot? It's like my signals are all mixed up. Well, that's a pretty weak offer. Well, what I see here, I see two things. One, I see balance at 02, which was a balance area before. So I think I picked my spot a little bit better this time. I'm also seeing that the cumulative delta does appear that it could be dropping, and there has been some selling in CB. I also see that the mini continues to just move up very steadily. And I've got the edge. But we need some push to come in here, because they're going to have to push it through that 1.5 is going to be a spot that they're going to defend it at, right? Wow, really? Hmm. In scalping Bitcoin, you definitely need to set your stops in tight, or at least set them all at, or at least set them at all. Yep. That's why I don't scalp Bitcoin. Although I'm tempted. Oh, you want to see something else that's kind of interesting that I should point out? Well, not that it's like super important or anything, but look at the ZF. Look at the spread. So it steepened a little bit. Sorry, this is the FYT. It steepened a little bit and now it's flat and it's like super noisy too. See that? Zero interest here. Okay, so that was a tick. They took 17 and they put 1500 on it and then it didn't go. E-mini continues to make progress. Already been a pretty long saga this morning in the E-mini. Cumulative delta isn't nearly enough, although they're getting close to that pivot high. So like 33, 26.33. Yep. Wow. I should post this. Another thing that I'm seeing in this market, and I really hate it, is the pulling. It's pulling to like 800, and then they take it, and then it doesn't matter. And I think that makes it really hard for me to trade for some reason. That seems to goof me up a lot. Oops. You seen this? It's like the exact wrong spot every time. Yeah, it's a good point that it's in the middle of a range. I gotta be honest with you guys. I really am starting to think that whatever it is that's causing me to have such a hard time in this market. And granted, we've kind of been hovering around break even here, but now today that's gonna hurt. So I think I'm thinking that I might need to stop and go back onto sim until I feel like I've figured out what my problem is. Yeah. So now I'm looking at -2 again. You know what else is kind of funny is that it's funny that I'm doing my calls in cryptocurrencies have been doing so well, but my scalping in treasuries has just been really bad the past month. Well, there's a pull. That's good. Not a good offer. Some fighting. Looks like they're fighting because the E-mini is deciding if it's going to go up or down. I think it might push up again. Nope. Okay. That's good. That's really good. And that's really good. And that's really good. Come on. I forgot to go. This is just not like moving. E-mini looks like it could go higher, but it didn't quite make it, even though cumulative delta is higher, so there is more buy demand here. That's good. Even if it goes, our downside in treasuries is probably limited. Well, there it goes. Okay, now they're almost at the a regular session high. Seems to be something that Treasuries are waiting on. So they traded session highs. Treasuries don't care. Notice, by the way, that 119 even has thickened up a little bit. Well, when you think about market profile, one of the first things that book talks about is date types, right? And it ticked up. Like, really? Well, somebody's still buying it.
Trade the Traders said market profile provides you knowledge about who is in control in the market, directional conviction. Market profile gives an idea to a day trader about where to take a trade.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of the whole point though? Like, what does the market tell you? What does the market profile tell you about who's in control right now?
Trade the Traders said.
Well, that bit of selling there in ZF is encouraging. What the equities markets are doing seems encouraging. Unable to hold the bid at 3 now. And another strong take in CF. And ZB now starting to move as well. Oh, come on, what is this noise?
Trade the traders said at the moment ifs control the market.
So you think that the other time frame buyers are in control? I feel like in the overnight they pushed down. They did range extension here.
Trade the traders said thumbs up sign.
Like you're saying, other time frame single prints, yeah. But then we came back up to this 04505, and
Jack said thanks TTT.
There was similar rejection.
Tucker said everybody placing their bets around 3%.
If the volume is mostly robots, why am I in a trade? Well, how was my 025 that bad? And then here's the other thing. If I take a short and like, maybe if I took a short at 10, that would be different because that would be on the edge of the profile. But I don't understand how I can be like almost in the middle of the profile and literally cannot get a single favorable tick. You know? My edge is completely failing me here. Nope. So it won't let me take it off? I don't understand. There we go.
Tucker said to know about robots, but it would make sense that large specs have to maneuver positions around this interest rate. They'll employ whatever they can to get the job done.
Yeah. It feels bad because from that first trade where I took -4 ticks and it just went like directly against me right from the get-go, I should have stopped, you know? And I've been kind of fighting and struggling and kind of turning things around for, you know, a week or two. And now today, the day comes in and I just like, it's like full tilt. And I feel like on one hand, my strategy is just really failing me here. On the other hand, I feel like I'm just not all there, you know? It does not seem to me like I am in my right mind, and yeah, and I really just based off of this, I really cannot justify trading the live account anymore. I have to stop and I have done okay in spots like these, like it was a little bit like this in December. But yeah, I'm doing poorly. And
Trade the traders said at Seth, do not give up. Everybody goes through such days, weeks.
yeah, well, we'll talk about it a little bit, throughout the day. But I've got to stop streaming now. So, yep, yeah. Oh, this is a healthy case of revision or reflection, though. Glad to hear it being broadcast. Yeah, this is disappointing because I've gone through periods like these, and then I just had a really good streak, and so it was like I thought I was over it, and it's clearly not. And this period has been so much longer than other ones, and it really sucks that it happened while I was doing my live account. And I mean that's a pretty an opportunity that I waited for a long time, that I feel like I've screwed up pretty badly. So I'm gonna have to save up for a bigger account. Anyways, we will if you want to keep chatting about this, we'll do it in Discord. Catch you later.